We love having people on who love music as intensely as we do. Our guest Dallas Owen is such a person, and he's done his homework and he's brought us a song that we don't know. We're going back to the 70s on episode 15 of I Got a Song. Come on. Okay, welcome once again, everybody. It is episode 15 of I Got a Song. And, buddy, you know what? We've got another special guest. We've got an interview today. First of all, we got my friend Michael Long, my partner in crime. Say hello, sir.
Hey, I'm here, ready to roll.
Man, you did a great job saying hello there. Thanks, man. Now, I know you're not feeling very well.
You shut up, you.
Quiet, you. Right,
Quiet, you.
I know you're not feeling well, but, man, I'm really glad that you're here with us.
Yeah, I'm not 100%, but, man, I'm ready to do this thing.
We have a special guest with us today. His name is Dallas Owen. We are friends. We used to be coworkers. And say hello, Dallas.
Hey guys. Excited to be here. Yes,
excellent. You're coming in loud and clear. Dallas is special because we connected. He hired me he hired me to work we were selling cars together, and we connected on music somehow. And recently, this specific song that Michael obviously has no knowledge of just kind of found me again recently in recent years. And for some reason, I just have this special connection and thought of this song connected with Dallas, and so I sent him a text, and I was like, "Hey man, we've kind of got this little little podcast thing. Would you be interested in coming on and talking to us about this?" And so here he is.
Yeah, it's I think that it makes sense that this one was kind of linked in your brain to me, because there was a small number of songs that when they would come on, I would always make a big deal about it, and I would point at all the young people who had no idea what these songs were. And I know that this was one of them that every time it came on, I would look at you and point up and say, one of the best songs of all time, every single time it came on.
That's so
man,
fun.
I can't wait.
I remember that too. One of the great things about connecting with somebody that you know that they're a music person, like yourself, then you've instantly kind of got a friend. You've got a connection there, and that they might understand you in a way that other people don't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't we go ahead, and I'm going to get the song ready, and I'm going to send it to Michael, and we're going to get his initial reaction to it. So I'm getting queued up right now. And,
so Dallas, this is how we've been doing it, where Clay takes an episode and he'll fire a surprise song to me, and I'll kind of react to it live, and then when it's my turn, I'll be kind of the lead host and do the same thing to Clay. And it's been a lot of fun with the surprise song aspect of it all. So I can't wait.
I've listened to your guys' episodes already, and I just thought, when Clay told me about it, I just thought it was such a great idea, because there's so much music out there, and sometimes, man, you guys hit some deep cuts. So I was a little bit apprehensive that this one's not quite as deep of a cut, but I think you're still gonna like it.
Oh yeah, I can't wait.
Before I send it, I usually pose a little bit of a question, and I forgot to do that until just this very moment, but I've got one.
Okay.
So, because I'm a professional, right?
You're right above it.
Have you ever thought, I know, Michael, there's a lot of bands that throughout their careers, they kind of cross genres.
Okay, yeah.
Can you think of any bands that have really effectively blended? I mean, I know there's a lot. I mean, it's probably a pretty broad question. But when I say, if you can think of blended, effectively blended.
Oh man, Uh, I mean, it's way
styles
out.
or
It's way out in left field, but the one that like immediately just popped into my head since you put me on the spot would be Funkadelic.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why that is because like I got into them maybe a year or two ago, Clay, when I was trying to, in vain share Funkadelic with you, and you're like, yeah, whatever. And but they're like, they're obviously funk, but like you listen to their album Maggot Brain, and it's rock with like this funk undertone to it, and two, very different genres of music, but they blend together so well on that album. I mean, there's some serious rock going on that thing, but then it'll be over like a funk beat or something like that, or like
yeah.
a slap bass with a Jimi Hendrix style guitar solo or something like that. And that's one. But man, I could sit here all night trying to come up with bands that have
Yeah.
like cross genres.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and send you this song, and we're going to hop into this.
No, let's do it.
Now, I know you know this song, but I don't know your
Oh, boy.
opinion.
Oh no.
So tell me when you got to.
Oh yeah, dude. Yes.
What do we got here, Mikey?
We got the Eagles one of these nights. Yes. Oh man,
We've talked about the
yes,
Eagles, but we've
well
never
done.
talked about Eagles on this show. And I brought Dallas along because this is the song and this is the album that for some reason just lands. And we're gonna get it. We're gonna get into it. But first, let's listen to the song. So, Dallas, you want to lead us in onto the song?
Lead us in.
Yeah, just say, okay, this is I don't know, do a little thing.
You just it?
Sure. Yeah, this is the title track, 1975, One of These Nights album, One of These Nights by the Eagles.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Here it is. At this time, for maximum effect, we recommend you go listen to the song in question before continuing with the episode. Okay, and we're back. That was One of These Nights. Oh man, we were vibing so hard and loving life on that one. How do you feel, Dallas?
I feel great. It's just
Of course.
it's just one of these songs that, I mean, you always wear out your favorites, and
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe it's just a difference with music from, back in this time frame compared to now, but man, I could wear a song out pretty quickly nowadays, but I I've got to be in the tens of thousands on One of These Nights, and it's just a bop every time, every single time.
Oh, no doubt, man. I was going to ask you. It's one of my questions I kind of had preloaded. If this is your favorite Eagles song,
You know,
putting
I mean,
you on the spot here, I know.
I know, and it's like asking me to choose between my children a bit, but
Right.
I think it probably is, and I'm sure we're gonna talk in more detail about why, but I mean, there's just something about this song, and its place on the album and its place in the Eagles' history that just, I don't know, it's not just the song, it's everything that goes along with it. So
Right.
I think it is my favorite for sure.
Fantastic, man. Well, thank you so much for that choice, man. It hadn't crossed my mind on my list of songs to offer Clay about the Eagles, but I love the Eagles. Um, God, One of These Nights, Tequila Sunrise, Lion Eyes. I mean, I could go on, but man, the, this song is definitely top of the heap. So good.
One of the things I noticed, and one of the reasons why I asked you a question about blending genres, I think that's kind of apparent now. But like on this song, one of the questions that I wanted to ask Dallas is like, do you think that this is a disco song?
Oh,
Ooh, that's good. So, and I don't want to like go full Eagles fangirl here, but I think that Glenn Fry talked about how when he and Henley were writing this, he was listening to a bunch of Al Green and like the Spinners, and they
Oh
actually
man,
recorded
yeah.
this. Yeah, and they recorded this album and this track in particular at that studio in Miami, and they were recording around the same time as the Bee Gees. So when the Bee Gees were recording
Hmm.
some of their stuff, and I think that what we start to hear in one of these nights is the Eagles starting to kind of move away from that like country ballady kind of thing that they were doing in the first three albums.
Hmm.
And yeah, you could hear some funk, you can hear some disco. I mean, you hear the little clicks on the back end
Yeah.
and the four on the floor disco beat. I mean, it's hard
Yeah.
not to it's hard to say that this isn't a disco song.
It
Oh,
could
I
But
was
fit
gonna
in
say
there.
too is like what
yeah.
what I gravitate towards like rhythm sections. So I kind of really zero in on drums, bass, kind of mid to low end, and this song has just got such a like a tight rhythm section, and it's just I can't help but just vibe along to it,
But
because
here's
of
the
that the
thing: how
beat
many?
and the bass and all that. It's like,
But
oh,
like, how many disco songs have a searing guitar solo like that? I I
Yeah.
don't
I
remember. I don't remember. I don't know a
cannot
lot of
think of too
disco, but I
many.
don't. Man, that guitar solo, dude. Mr. Felder, shredding it,
Hmm.
man, just bringing it.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
and that rhythm section you're talking about, like, you know, obviously Randy Meisner is one of the great, you know, bassists slash vocalists, I think, of all time, but
Absolutely.
probably not the most, technically skilled bassist. But man, he can just lay down those beats that are just so smooth, and he just sets that whole tone right in the beginning there. And then obviously, you know, Henley can find a pocket, and so
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It's so great. It's such a vibe at the beginning of that song, and then when you get that ba ba ba, and it just kicks in, I don't know. It's
Oh
just something
yeah.
about it just makes me happy, no matter what's going on. If I hear that, I'm in a good mood.
Oh, me
Oh
too.
man.
Every time.
Yeah.
I This is one of those ones where it occasionally pops on when I'm playing pool with friends. Like that's just it comes on. It's just like a staple, and when it comes on, I totally agree with you, man. I'm just like grinning and I'm like tapping my foot and I'm singing along, and and if somebody's like, "Oh, who is this?" It's like, "What? Come on, man! It's the freaking Eagles, dude."
Well, and if you are a person who, you know, and obviously this was a number one. I think it was their second number one. But if a lot of the more popular songs come from Hotel California, and
Mm-hmm.
you've got the kind of ballady stuff. And so if you're not like an Eagles fan, and especially if you really a teenager or in that peak listening time in the 70s, I think it's an easy one for people to miss. And then they hear it
Absolutely.
and they're like, oh, I don't, man, this sounds familiar, but like it sounds so different than the other Eagle stuff. You got those high falsetto harmonies from Meisner, and you got this like disco beat, and then Felder's guitar solo. It's just all over the place. So yeah, it's definitely one of those songs that I think people have maybe heard, but then you're like, oh, this is the Eagles. Oh yeah, definitely is the Eagles, but like doesn't fit my kind of vision of them.
It's also
Yeah.
got Lion Eyes and Take It to the
Mm-hmm.
Limit, which were all three
Yep.
top ten
Oh yeah.
singles. Which
Oh
and Take
yeah.
Yep.
It to the Limit is one of my personal favorites. And I'd until a couple days ago where I started hitting this album, I'd kind of forgotten that it was on there, and then it came on. I was like, oh man, oh I love this one so much. And
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
the I mean, it's just the singing takes over, and that's the instrument. That's all I want to hear. It's just
Yep.
such a such a vocal performance.
And it's crazy that was the only Take It to the Limit was the only single that was released that had Randy Meisner singing lead. He sang lead on like 15 other songs across some albums, but that was the only one that was released as a single, and it just crushed
Oh
because
nice.
Yeah.
it's just so linked. Like, I don't know, it's just a great. The whole album is great for different reasons.
I don't know if
Oh
you
absolutely.
noticed. I'm sure Dallas probably knows what I'm talking about. It towards the end of "Take It to the Limit," it seems like they're trying to fade out and end the song, but the singing is so good, and he keeps going, and going, and it'll do a higher and a higher thing, but if they almost fade it back in, they're like, wait, we better not stop recording because he's
I don't think
really
I've ever
bringing it.
noticed that, but now I need to
I
go
don't know,
back and
maybe I
listen to
was
that.
just dreaming it, or I don't know, but I felt like it was I felt like the song is trying to fade out, but then it kind of comes back a little bit because the singing keeps going and it's just so good. And it's one of those songs where like, I don't mind if you just want to keep on singing, take it to the limit. If you want to just keep doing that, I'm great. I'm doing that for 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I feel like I remember that in the recording, but then when you watch the live performances or listen to a live album, I mean, it does sometimes go on forever, and it is sometimes like Meisner and Henley just trying to compete against each other on like who can hit
Nice.
these higher notes.
Well, Dallas, here's one of the great things about the show is that I understand you brought us a song, and Michael and I have no idea what it is, and man, we're real excited. So you want to tell us a little bit about what you got for us? You've done your homework.
Yeah, I have done my homework. So, and Clay, you know this from talking to me that I not just about musicians, but I love the impact that producers have on the feel of an album, and
Hmm.
Ooh.
there's so much control there. And the producer of this album was Bill Simzik, one of the all-time greats. And this was the first album. They've been working with a different guy for the last three, and Bill Simzik came on this one and just, I think, really helped those guys kind of find their sound. And there's an interesting connection here that at the same time that he was doing one of these nights, Bill Simzik was producing another album called Friends and Legends by a guy named Michael Stanley. Have you guys heard of
Oh,
Michael Stanley?
I have
it's not
not.
It's not ringing a bell. No.
Okay. Michael Stanley Band he eventually got his own band and did some solo stuff with them later, but this was like right in the beginning. And because he didn't have a band, the guys from Barnstorm actually played on it. And if you know Clay, the guitarist for Barnstorm was Joe Walsh. So
Aha.
Oh,
the song that
yeah.
we're going to listen to is called Bad Habits by Michael Stanley, and you're going to just immediately hear Joe Walsh, and
Oh, sweet.
it's
Oh
so
man.
cool. And I don't know, I just love this connection that like Bill Simzik was recording, this album with Michael Stanley and the guys from Barnstorm. Um, and then it was pretty quickly after one of these nights came out that Felder left the band and Joe Walsh came in. And it was really that
Yeah.
Bill Simzik connection that made that happen. So uh, this one is a great tune. It's not very long. It's kind of, about a young man kind of finding himself with this girl and turning into a man. It's really good. I think you guys are going to like it.
Sweet.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, without further ado, this is what's the song again?
Bad Habits by Michael Stanley. It's off the album Friends and Legends.
All
Nice.
right, let's dig
Let's do
in.
it.
All right.
At this point in the episode, Clay and Michael listen to the song and then come back to discuss it. For the best experience, we recommend that you do the same on your music platform of choice.
That was amazing. That was Bad Habits by Michael Stanley. Dallas Owen, man. You really brought it, man. That was a
Yeah,
fantastic
dude.
song.
Yeah, it's I was a little bit happier that I was able to get a deep cut. I was hoping to put something in front of you that you hadn't heard before,
That's the
and
best.
Well done, man. That's God. Something I hadn't heard in a long time, and then like it's not a sister track, but like I like how you tied it in through the producer and like Joe Walsh, you know, eventually being an Eagle himself, and oh man, yeah, what a great track. And I think you'd mentioned, you'll be able to hear Joe Walsh in it when he starts playing. It's like, man, yeah, I mean, first note he belts out is like, oh man, yeah, that's Joe Walsh, no doubt.
yep. And like when people listen to this on Spotify and they see the album cover art, you can imagine for, gosh, I must have been 7 or 8 years old, just pulling records, off of my grandpa's shelf, and this
Hmm.
bright red album, and I don't know. I just remember finding this one when I was real young, and it just stuck with me this whole time. Michael Stanley's got some great one. He used to play in a band called Silk in like the late '60s, early '70s,
Okay.
and uh, just like such a match made in heaven with Bill Szymczyk, because Bill Szymczyk did James Gang and Joe Walsh and Jay Giles Band. Like, I mean, he's just one of the all-time great producers of that kind of early to mid '70s time frame.
I was gonna say, yeah, that all kind of seems like it's almost like he has kind of a wheelhouse as far as what he's producing, I guess, but based on those bands that you just mentioned. So, like,
Sure.
yeah.
So this album was just something that was lying around at the house, or
Yeah, I think I've shared this with you before, Clay. My musical like formation happened at my grandpa's vinyl player. Like, just
Oh,
digging through all of these records, and uh, one of my earliest memories really is of my grandpa teaching me, how to put down the needle so that you don't damage it. And then once he felt confident that I wasn't going to break anything, he would just let me go at it.
that's
And he
beautiful.
just had
what
rows
a
and
great
rows of
memory.
vinyls. Yeah, and I find all this stuff, and uh yeah, and it just stays with me. It's pretty rare that I listen to anything made after like 1981 nowadays.
Hmm.
I
And
get
there's
that
just
way a
I,
lot.
I feel
yeah.
that. Yeah, I go through phases like that. Definitely.
Yeah, and and then I just started digging into that producers. When I'm especially playing music myself, you start to realize like how much of an impact a producer can have on an album. Not just the technical side and the sound, but how people play together, the instrumentation,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
once you land on a producer that you like, you start looking through it. It's a good call out. He did kind of have this wheelhouse in the early to mid '70s, but
Hmm.
he also produced Indianola, Mississippi Seeds by B.B. King uh,
Oh, wow.
way earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then later on, he did work for The Who. He did work for Elvin Bishop and REO Speedwagon. Like, this
Oh,
dude was
wow.
just prolific in his time. I think he's still alive, actually.
Yeah, I in preparation, I actually watched a little bit of an interview with oh man, Siznik, is that right?
Simzik, yeah,
Simzik. Okay, yeah, it's interesting. His last name does not have any vowels.
that's true.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He's one of the things that I think that there was probably a lot of there was. I mean, the Eagles always had a lot of inner problems and issues, right? And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that Mr. Simzik trying to keep these guys in line and keep them on task and keep them from all the fighting and everything was probably a
Hmm.
challenge too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and especially at that time, one of these nights, it was right as Felder had come in, and right as Bernie Ledden was leaving, over these creative differences. So I can't imagine, and I'm sure there were some, uh, extra mind-altering substances that were happening. So when you think about all that pressure on a producer to make an album, when you've got all that going on, I mean, I don't think anybody's ever accused Glenn Frey of being, uh, a very amenable person to work with. So,
Right.
I've heard Mr. Henley also has his days.
yep,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
You've got that much genius packed into these two people. It's going to come out sometimes, but
Oh, yeah.
man,
No doubt.
Heads are gonna butt,
yep, for
Yeah.
sure.
sparks are gonna fly, but that's when greatness happens sometimes.
Oh yeah, I mean, between those two guys, when you go back and look at the Eagles, catalog, and all the songs that say, Henley and Fry are, I mean, just the amount of music that they put out that not only was great at the time, but that has stood the test of time. We're
Hmm.
still listening to these things and looking back on them as some of the greatest tunes ever written. That just came out of those guys' brains. Just insane.
I mean,
Was this
isn't
album
Hotel
also? Go ahead.
California like still one of the biggest selling albums of all time, if not like top three or something like that?
I don't know. I mean,
I know
I'd be
it's just,
surprised about that.
I know their greatest hits one.
or is it greatest hits?
That's one
It's
of the top 10
something.
or something. It's
One of them
huge.
by the Eagles is just consistently one of the highest selling records of all time. So it's just crazy the longevity, you know.
Yeah. Well, and this, we talked about all the kind of crossing genres, Clay, in the beginning, and I thought that was a great lead in.
Hmm.
Um, to me, one of these nights as an album is the Eagles growing up, and we don't get Hotel California without this. And
Right.
like, you can't really go from On the Border to Hotel California. So this is just, I don't know, it just holds this really interesting place in Eagles history, and I think just in rock history, um, of, you know, going through this thing, and you're feeling the growing pains, and that they don't really know exactly what their sound's supposed to be, but then they really dial it in, and then you get Hotel California, which is arguably one of the greatest albums of all time.
Hmm.
But for some reason, it's just this one has always been just a jam for me. The album art on the front, it's just everything's perfect.
Was this one that was at your granddad's house?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And how could you not grab this one as a little kid? You've got the cow skull with the wings and all the beads hanging off of it. It's just such a cool
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, when you're flipping through, you're like,
I'm,
"Ooh, cool! Look at
Yeah.
this
yeah,
freaking
I'm
skull
looking
and
at it
stuff.
like
Look at this."
you mentioned it, and I have it up. I'm like looking at the album as you mentioned it. I was like, oh man, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, it's a different time. But I don't know, there's something about holding that vinyl record and looking at the artwork, and pulling everything out, and it's just a completely different experience listening to stuff,
We agree.
back then than now. Every song ever written is on Spotify. You just click a button. It kind of loses a little bit of the romanticism.
It
You
it
know, and
does.
Yeah.
and that's funny because I think Clay, one of our last episodes we recorded, we talked about how we consume music these days versus when you and I were in high school and prior to that and immediately after that. And it's just what I love about the vinyl format is that it really forces you to listen to an entire album.
Hmm.
And you know bands don't necessarily record albums anymore so much as collections of songs that they're just ready to put out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
If that makes any sense. But it's like, before, back in these days, you know, I guess there was more cohesion on the albums, and there's more of a vision across the entire album as opposed to individual songs. I don't know. It's just
Do you own any
we
Eagles
were talking to
material
that.
on vinyl? Either of you?
I have Hotel California,
I
but
have
that's
them
that's
all.
the I
Yes.
I, I
It's
love it.
probably not a surprise to anybody. But yes, I
I
have every one
need
of them.
I need one of these nights on vinyl.
Me too.
But
100%. After this, and I'm gonna dig out. I'm gonna dig out this new track too that you gave us, Michael Stanley. I'm
Yeah.
gonna dig that out too.
It might be tough to find on vinyl. I don't have this one on vinyl. I really wish I did. So if
well,
anybody listening
Clay,
out there wants to send me a present, if you can track one down for me, I would love to have it.
Mission accepted.
yeah, Clay, you and I need to go spend an afternoon in CDs and more and see if we can dig through all the vinyl they've got there, and
Yeah, we
might be
still
able to
love
produce them.
collecting vinyl, Dallas. I mean, with Michael's job, he travels a lot, and whenever he gets to stop into record stores occasionally, he'll say, "Hey, I'm going to go to this record store. Is there anything you want me to look for?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, give me a minute. I'll think of something." And then there's been a few times where uh, he's brought home a couple of records, and I'll pay him back or whatever. But I've got them, and I just love to. There's something about holding the physical disc or whatever in
Yeah.
your hand and looking at the vinyl and reading the lyrics and like just holding it instead of like scrolling and zooming and whatever.
Sure.
It's something that we don't get to do as much anymore. And this morning I came into my little studio, I call it the rock room or whatever, where I've got all my guitars and pedals and stuff, and I've got my little wall of CDs here. And one of my daughters came in today and she said, "Are you going to listen to some music?" And I was like, "Yeah, what? I don't know what to listen to. Just pick a CD, pick anything." And she's like, "I don't know what any of this is." And she brought out the Joshua Tree, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
Hmm.
let's do it." And I just put it
Wow.
on. I mean, it was a CD, but still, I put it on, and man, I had a time. I just had a
Yeah.
time.
I mean, I like this. Michael, you're talking about the difference in how we consume music now compared to
Yes.
then. And I would also say the way that we find music nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
Spotify does a great job, putting together playlists and, kind of throwing some things at you based on your listening history. Uh, as you guys know, if you have kids, though, just RIP any of your tailored mixes because it's throwing in the Wiggles and Disney
Oh my
songs, all kinds
gosh.
of stuff.
Yep.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but
Disney
man,
stuff. Yeah.
like I just think that when I would go to those shelves, that was like my grandpa's taste, like his personality just lined up. And
Yeah.
digging through that and finding things, because I'm a kid, really I'm picking things out based on like whatever the cover looks like that's cool.
Yeah.
And just there's something really magical, and it's why this is honestly why I've spent so much time building my vinyl collection, because I want that same feeling for my kids whenever they get a little bit
Yes.
older, to
Yes.
start to be able to just like dig through and have that moment of like, what's this? That looks cool. Let me just throw it on and see what that sounds like. And then, it's hit or miss sometimes, but then every once in a while you come across something random like Michael Stanley, and you just fall in love with it. And then, now here I am, whatever, 25 years later, still talking about it. So
Yeah,
I don't know, it's
dude.
just something different about that that you know I
Well, it's
wish
like
we had
this
it.
personal connection that you made with both the music and your grandfather, and it's just like you you'll cherish that, of course, the rest of your life, and then pass that kind of legacy on to your own kids and everything. It's just, I mean, music has that power, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's just fascinating to me how music can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
My mom has passed down her vinyl collection to me, and I plan on, I cherish these, they're just objects, but
Hmm.
but they have value, and they have soul, and they have something, and they're meaningful. And I look forward to blessing my children with these one day and handing them down to them, and letting them hopefully have experiences like what you're talking about, and what we're talking about on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a gift. It's such a gift to be able to share music, um, you know, with each other, with your family, with anybody. And one of the things that we talk about on the show is how music is such a gift. And whenever somebody sends you a song, like to me, I'm like, hey, this person is sending me this song specifically, and I think that's man, it's special. It's special whenever
Yeah,
whenever whenever we can share music with each other.
it is. I do sometimes think though that I'm setting my son up to be like a total weirdo, because you think about like this album, One of These Nights, is 1975. It's almost 50 years old at this point. And so I think back, like if my son is 15 and this is 50 years old, it would have been like us, when we were kids listening to music from like the 40s. Like, we would have been total weirdos. So I do worry sometimes that I'm like, maybe I'm just setting my son up to like, I only listen to music that was written 70 years ago. But,
Well,
Oh
for
man.
the longest time, I've softened on this stance a little bit, but for the longest time, because I still dig into music from the '60s, '70s, '80s that I had just never heard, and even today, this evening, you share this song by Michael Stanley. It's just this awesome jam with Joe Walsh and everything, and it's like I used to say, all the best music has already been written, you know, and I
yeah,
still feel that way to a very large degree, because some of these timeless jams are just, you're never going to top them.
yeah,
Obviously, I've found newer music, more recent music that I love, and couldn't imagine going on without going forward. But man, it's so refreshing to be able to go back to like the '70s and still find music that you haven't heard that's still really good. And I appreciate the share on this, man. This is great.
yeah. I'm glad you guys brought me on to talk about it. It's probably one of your longer episodes because I mean, I just get so excited talking about it.
That's all right though. It's been a great conversation. It's been it's been great to and like talking about the producer aspect of it and everything. It's just it gets to be a small world, especially in 60s and 70s music.
Oh yeah, especially these guys. That whole scene in the early mid '70s around the Troubadour in Los Angeles. Like, I think I remember in the Eagles documentary they were talking about the fact that Glenn Frey lived in an apartment right above Jackson Brown, and remembers him like he remembers
come on,
listening to Jack. I know, right? He remembers listening to Jackson Brown figuring out the lyrics to "Doctor My Eyes," and like
No
I don't know,
way.
it's just crazy to me, like thinking about all this just incredible talent that was just in like a 10 square mile area in Los Angeles, and they all went to the Troubadour and hung out, and I don't know, I feel like I was born in the wrong time.
Oh boy, Dallas, thank you so much for spending time with us. I knew when this song came back and found me and I thought about you, that it would all just line up, and I was like, I know just the person. This is a song that I'm gonna hit Mikey with, and I know just the person to bring along for the ride. And man, I'm so pleased and thankful to have had you with us today, man.
Well, I appreciate you guys bringing me on and letting me chat about it.
Yeah, man. Man, if you'd like to, man, I'd love to have you back on an episode down the road. We'll talk about some more good stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. There were definitely more than just this one that I would point up at the ceiling whenever it would come on and get Clay's attention. So I've got
Very
some
nice.
more.
Oh man, what a pleasure! It's been so good reconnecting with you, and man, we're definitely going to do this again.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely, anytime.
So until then, once again, everybody say your prayers, take your vitamins. Music is a gift. Give generously, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey, we really appreciate you listening to the show today. If you enjoyed it, feel free to listen to the rest of our catalog and share it with your friends. Go ahead and follow us, and you can find me on Instagram at Clay Dang Collins. Thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one.